Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Jeremy, welcome to Polyphonic Press, and this is the follow-up video to the one I did last week where I answer the questions that you guys asked me in the comments. Now I've gotten a lot of questions like what's my favorite album, what albums would I take on a deserted island if I were stranded, or what's my top 10 favorite albums. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer all the questions, and then at the end of the video I'm going to give you my 10 favorite albums of all time. They're not in any particular order, they're just the 10 albums that I feel are just my favorite of all time, out of any band. And before we get started, I have kind of a crazy story to tell you guys. Now, I'm not sure if you knew this, but yesterday was actually my birthday, and on Thursday, me and my friend John went to a bar and we saw one of our favorite bands, Big Sugar. And we were in the front row, and Gordie Johnson, who's the lead singer, who's produced many people like Government Mule, and he's done some work with the Black Crowes, the Trues, who else? So just a whole bunch of people that he's worked with. And he's a really cool guy, and highly respected him as a musician. So we're in the front row, and he looks at me and he says, "Wow, I dig your program, man, on YouTube." And he goes like this to give me a fist bump. And I was sort of, you know, standing there going, "What?" It was the most surreal moment I've ever had. And it was weird. And that was pretty cool. And then afterwards we went, they were sort of standing off to the side of the bar, and they were doing sort of a meet and greet, but no one was really going over and talking to them. There were a few people, and we went over and I shook Gordie Johnson's hand, and he said he really liked my stuff. And I got this CD at the show. It's their side project called Alkaline, which is basically dub versions of Big Sugar songs. It's not dubstep, don't get that confused. It's dub version, like Jamaican dub music. And it's really cool, but the cool thing is I got it signed. You can see that. That's Gordie Johnson's signature right there. And we talked for a bit about the YouTube channel and things like that. And then off to the side I saw their saxophone and harmonica player, Mr. Chill. And he signed the inside cover right there. You can see that. That's really cool. And he said that he subscribed to the channel. So if you guys are watching this, I was sort of a little bit starstruck, so I just wanted to say thank you for you know, digging my channel. I had no idea that it had gotten that far, that one of my favorite bands actually are a fan of me, which is kind of weird to say. And thank you for the autograph. Yeah, thank you for the autographs, you guys. And yeah, that's really cool. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into the questions. So Mr. Splatter Platter, you asked what's my social security number. Oh, 5. It's 5. Yeah, I know you're joking, but yeah, that's cool. That's funny. He actually asked me what was my top 5 albums that I would take with me on a desert island, and like I said, I'll be answering that at the end of the video. Runner JMA, who's a really cool reviewer, so is Mr. Splatter Platter. Check them both out. They do more metal reviews. Mr. Splatter Platter does like some indie rock and stuff, but he mostly focuses on metal. Check them out. They're really cool guys and know a lot of stuff. So, and Runner JMA asks, he asked a couple questions. He asked, who inspired you to do album reviews? And okay, I'll tell you the story. Basically, I was browsing on YouTube, and I think I was looking for Black Crowes videos, who were one of my favorite bands, and I think I stumbled upon the Rock It Out blog. I think there was a story he was doing, Sammy, I think he was doing a story about the Black Crowes. I think it was in March of 2010, and they had just announced that they were going to be going on a tour and then taking a little break, going on a hiatus, which they're currently on now. And I reviewed Rich Robinson's solo album, and that's what's going on with them right now. Anyways, I was searching for Black Crowes videos. I think I hit uploaded today, stumbled upon the Rock It Out blog, and I thought, wow, that's a really cool concept, because no one's really going to YouTube for news of any kind, music news or otherwise. No one's really going to YouTube for news. At least they weren't at the time. And I thought it was really cool that this guy, you know, I had been aware of the vloggers and all that, but I didn't really pay too much attention to those people. And I thought that was really cool, a really neat concept to do, like, be a vlogger and deliver rock and roll music news, you know? I thought, well, that looks like fun. I could maybe do that. And I decided that I would do like a week in review type of thing, like all the news stories that had happened the past week, and I was going to do it every Saturday. I uploaded a couple videos and they were horrible, and I decided I really didn't care too much about the music news, or, you know, I wasn't interested in following the news. I was more interested in actually listening to the music that they were talking about. So I sort of found the reviewing community, and because I knew I wanted to do something. I wanted to do videos of some sort. And I found the reviewing community, obviously Anthony Fantano and 3 Creation, Austin Farrell, and all these people were doing reviews, but they weren't all, they're really cool people, and I really dig what they're doing. But they weren't necessarily talking about the music that I was mostly interested in, which is like bluesy, garage rock type of stuff. So I decided, well, whatever albums that they are not going to review, I'll review. And maybe just for whatever reason they're not going to review them, they're just not interested, or maybe they'd never heard of the album before. But I had this whole other knowledge of music that had not really been tapped into on YouTube, and I thought, well, I could do that. I could really do that, and it would give me a chance to really, you know, explore my music geekiness. And so that's how I really got started, and it just sort of grew from there. And I started the website and all these things, and it really wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been searching for Black Crowes videos. So that's how I got started. That was basically my inspiration, my foray into music vlogging. And Runner JMA has asked a couple questions here. The second question he asked is, what bands of the past and today do you feel are overrated? I'll tell you, I think the most overrated band, I mean, some people would say the Beatles. I disagree. I think maybe a little bit, but not the most overrated band. They really are a fantastic band, and they sort of did everything right. Obviously, they made a couple mistakes, but for the most part, they pretty much did everything that they set out to do. I think the most overrated band of all time is probably U2. I like some of their songs, but people tend to put them on a pedestal that they don't really deserve to be on. They're sort of an average band that seems to do big things. Like the big tour, the most recent tour is the biggest production on a rock concert tour of all time, the 360 tour. That big claw stage that they had, and they had 2 or 3 of them because it took so long to tear down and set everything up that they had 2 or 3 of them at each venue. At the next venue, it was already set up when they got there. So I mean, for a band that has to put on that much of a show, like, how bad is your music? I'm not saying they're a bad band. I'm just saying that they're an average band that does big things. Who do I think is the most overrated band today? Coldplay. Definitely Coldplay. I mean, I like some of their songs, but I mean, they're again, that U2 thing, they're an average band that seems to just do big things, and they don't really deserve all the praise that they're getting. That's just my opinion anyway. And he also asked, do you feel that Rush deserve their own Hall of Fame, seeing as how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Ohio doesn't have them? And they are in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, and that's good enough for me. Yeah, you know, they're another really great band. I mean, one of the best rock bands in the world. Very innovative, very inventive. The musicianship is outstanding. I mean, Neil Peart is one of the greatest drummers in the world. Alex Lifeson, obviously a great guitar player. Geddy Lee, great vocalist, bass player, and songwriter. And I think, yeah, they're just one of those classic bands that I think everyone loves. And they're a rare example of everyone loving the band and them actually deserving all the love that they get. A lot of the, like I said, a lot of the bands do get overrated. I think they deserve everything that they get. They're just a great band. And obviously, yeah, I wouldn't go as far as giving them their own Hall of Fame, but do they deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Absolutely. Okay, Follow has asked a couple questions as well. He said, are there any particular songs that you've been really obsessed with lately? If so, which ones and why? I think one of my favorite songs, the song that I've been really obsessed with lately is, it came out about 3 years ago. It was by Matt Mays and El Torpedo, and the song is called Building a Boat. And it is just a great rock and roll, you know, song, loud guitars, drums, and it's just really good. And it's not heavy, but it's just loud, and it's not aggressive, but it's hard to describe. It's just a really good song. I'll put a link to it in the description because it's just really worth checking out. And he also asked, what are your favorite foods? That's a tough one. I would probably have to say that ribs are probably my favorite food of all time. You know, I just love them. They're just great. They're not really healthy for you or anything like that, but every once in a while they're just worth having, and I just love to eat ribs. I'm trying to, you know, lose a little bit of weight here, but I actually had them for my birthday dinner, and absolutely fantastic. Smoky barbecue sauce on them too. You got to be smoky barbecue, otherwise it's just not right. It's just not right. So yeah, ribs are probably my favorite food of all time. Another food-related question. Solo Flights asks, what's your favorite sandwich? My favorite sandwich is, if you go to Subway and get the oven-roasted chicken breast, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, chipotle sauce, and mayonnaise. Get them to toast it first so the cheese actually melts. If you can swing it, get it on Italian herbs and cheese bread. Great stuff. One of the best sandwiches that I've ever had. Really great. Mr. Funky Dutch, John, you asked, why don't I look like my dad, and why does the garbage man keep giving funny looks to my mom? Sorry, I can't help you there. You're gonna have to just figure that one out for yourself. Joe Durleo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He asks a couple questions. Where are you from? I am from, I currently live in and am from a little small town, about 20,000 people, about 2-hour drive north of Toronto. It's a little place called Owen Sound, Ontario, Canada. Maybe a lot of people don't know I'm from Canada. Maybe it's my accent. I don't really have much of a Canadian accent. But yeah, I'm from Owen Sound, Ontario, currently living there. Right now I'm working to save my money to move back to Toronto. I really want to live there because that's where the music is happening. And I'm a musician as well, so I want to be part of that and, you know, have a band and basically be a musician as well as do this. So to be able to do that in Toronto would be absolutely amazing. What music did I grow up listening to? I grew up listening to pretty much the same music that I'm listening to now. My favorite band of all time is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I've seen them 3 times in concert. And yeah, I grew up listening to them. The story goes, here's the story. My best friend John, we were in 3rd grade. I met him in 3rd grade, and he asked me, you know how sometimes the kids will be obsessed with something that most kids aren't really into? His thing was Tom Petty. And he asked me if I liked Tom Petty, and I said, well, yeah, I think my dad has a couple of his CDs at home. So I went home, and my dad had, I think it was Wildflowers and Into the Great Wide Open is what he had. And I played them both and I really liked them. And he said, well, if you like that, you'll probably like Damn the Torpedoes. And he had Damn the Torpedoes on cassette from when he was like in his early 20s. It came out in 1979. And so I played that and immediately fell in love with it. And it just... at that moment I knew that I wanted to do something with music, and I was 8 years old when that happened, and it's still my favorite album of all time. And he also asked, were you the only kid that listened to that music? Yeah, well, other than John, yeah, we were the only kids that were listening to that. We kind of got picked on a little bit for it, but I think in the end, now looking back on it, it's looking at what our classmates were into. Our classmates were into like Aqua, the Backstreet Boys, Spice Girls, all that shit, and we were into like this rock and roll music. And it's funny because, you know, we've sort of stayed, although we've gotten into more bands, I've pretty much had that favorite band since I was 8 years old, and I don't know many other people who can say that. So yeah, there you go. He also asked, what does the factory you work in make? The factory I work in, we do magazines. It's a printing plant that we do magazines, mostly Canadian publications, like Canadian Living, Maclean's. I think we do we do Hello Canada, which is like a celebrity gossip magazine. We do what else do we do? We do Chatelaine, Elle magazine, which is like a fashion type of thing. So we do a lot of like Canadian publications and stuff like that. We do phone books too, which is kind of interesting. And we're doing if you live in Canada and you get a tax guide in the mail, we do that. I think our plant is the only one who's doing all the tax guides for Canada, so that's pretty cool. And so yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. 12-hour days and 12-hour night shifts, 7 to 7. It sucks, but it's going to work out in the long run because it's going to allow me to move back to Toronto and do this and be do my own thing and not have to worry about getting a day job. And the last question he asked is, are you sitting or standing while making videos? And I am sitting. A little setup. My tripod is actually a stack of CDs. This is my bedroom. As you can see, this is my bed. And I'm sitting just in my desk chair. Big Ideas 3 asks, where does your theme music come from? My theme music comes from, there's a CD out there called The Production Garden, which is basically, music that you can use in films. And my theme music came from that. I didn't record it myself, but it is royalty free, so I'm allowed to use it. And it's from the CD that I bought. So the music comes from that. It's basically used for filmmakers, or rather editors. They can't afford to hire an orchestra or anything, but they can use this music that's royalty free. They don't have to pay licensing or anything like that on it. So my music comes from that. Mr. Cannibal Spork, who is an awesome album reviewer. He's got a lot of great videos too. You should definitely check him out if you haven't. He asks, what are the best genres / artists to listen to in winter? What are my favorite genres overall? I think the best genre to listen to in the winter is probably reggae, because reggae comes from Jamaica, and Jamaica is a warm place, and Canada is very cold in the winter. So when you listen to reggae in Canada in the winter, it reminds you of the summer, and I think reggae is the best genre to listen to in the winter, definitely. It's very laid back, very easygoing music, and it just makes you feel good and makes you feel warm. And what are my favorite genres overall? Well, I mean, I hate to be labeled as a classic rock guy, but I do love classic rock. I love a lot of classic rock bands. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I love Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Rolling Stones, you know, all those guys. The Who are a really great band, but I also love a lot of new music and a lot of you know, modern artists as well. So, but I guess when it really comes down to it, my favorite genres are like bluesy, garage rock. I really love the blues. I mean, I pretty much love at least one artist of every genre. So basically, I have to say that I love a lot of stuff. But yeah, I keep coming back to like blues rock. That's definitely my thing. And the last couple questions is by Malby987. I hope I'm pronouncing that right as well. He says, who was your first favorite band? And again, like I said before, my first favorite band was and still is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. They're a great band. They've been around for 30 years. I hope they're going on tour next year. They've announced that they're one date in England. I hope they come to Canada again. That would be way awesome. But yeah, definitely my first and current favorite band is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And he also asked, what's the most overrated band of all time? And I already said that. I think it's U2. So that's all the questions you guys asked me. Thank you again for asking. And now I'm going to give you my 10 favorite albums of all time. So the first album on the list is Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde. And this came out when Bob Dylan was first going electric. And there was a huge controversy over him sort of embracing pop music more so than his folk roots. And people were criticizing him for abandoning that. But I think it's a really brilliant album, and in hindsight, a lot of people have said that they were wrong, and they understand what he was doing now. Obviously, he's had a very prolific career, but this album really stands out to me, and it's part of the three electric albums, Highway 61 Revisited, Blonde on Blonde, and Bringing It All Back Home. And I think this is my favorite out of the three because it has some really great tracks, and it's definitely worth checking out. And some really funny lyrics too. So yeah, it's definitely my favorite Bob Dylan album. Yeah. Next one is the Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street. This album really comes out in an odd time. It was pretty much recorded live, I think. And it's a really great album. It's got a lot of songs on it, and it's got my favorite song, which is Tumbling Dice, which is a really great bluesy rock type of thing. Again, I love that blues rock. And, you know, this album to me just, it captures the Rolling Stones sound perfectly. It's got that Keith Richards style guitar with the open G tuning, the Telecaster. It just has that sound. And if you're playing an open G on a Telecaster, you can't not sound like Keith Richards. And this album is riddled with songs that feature those kinds of riffs that just sound like him. And I think this is the Rolling Stones album to have if you're a Rolling Stones fan. Next is the Beatles' Rubber Soul. This album was released in '65, and it's really their first album where they started to write lyrics that weren't just I want to hold your hand or She Loves You. It was really getting a little deeper, and this is where the songwriting really shines. And basically the reason for that is Bob Dylan had met the Beatles, said to John Lennon, you know, I really dig your stuff, but you're really not singing about anything. You're just sort of singing about like superficial stuff. And that really woke something up in John Lennon, because he was a huge admirer of Bob Dylan. So for him to say that really pushed John Lennon to write more thought-provoking lyrics, and that is very evident on this album. It's full of great songs too, and definitely my favorite Beatles album too. Next is The Trues, House of Ill Fame. This is their debut album. I reviewed their newest one, Hope and Ruin. You can go and check that out. And this is their first album, and I think it's really great. It's one of those great debut albums, and produced by Gordie Johnson for Big Sugar again. And it's got that thing where they put out an album, or an EP rather, as Trouser. And this is their first full-length album. and to go from an EP to an album is a big step. And a lot of bands can't really pull it off. There's usually a couple weak tracks on here. I'm not saying that all these tracks are really strong, but I think they're stronger than a lot of debut albums. And I think that just tells you what a great band they are. This is Tom Petty's Wildflowers. This is his second solo album. He's had 3 overall: Full Moon Fever, Wildflowers, and Highway Companion. This is his second one, released in 1994, and it's chock full of great tunes. Produced by Rick Rubin, who is a great producer. He really pushed Tom into writing more mellow music and not focus on having a big pop hook. There are still some poppy songs on here, but the lyrics on here are just amazing, and you can tell this was a really creative period for Tom, and it's just one of those great albums that you can put on a Sunday morning and just enjoy the ride as it goes through. Then we come to Foo Fighters, The Color and the Shape. Now this album is probably regarded as the Foo Fighters' best album, and I would have to agree. This was their creative peak, I think. Their second album, and just a lot of great songs. Even the hits are really great, like My Hero and Monkey Wrench, but it's also got a lot of really cool like deep cuts, like New Way Home and things like that. And it's got Everlong on it, which is an amazing song, so you can't go wrong. So that's The Color and the Shape from Foo Fighters. Next is Big Sugar with Hemi Vision. Now this album, to me, this is where Big Sugar really became Big Sugar. Now they had released 2 albums before. They're self-titled and 500 Pounds. And they're really good albums and really solid too. Big Sugar, the first self-titled one, is really jazzy and it's really jazz influenced. This album is, Hemi Vision, is really when they started to embrace more hard rock and more reggae rhythms as well, with the influence from Gary Lowe, their bass player, who is from Jamaica. So it's got a lot of really cool combinations. One song to check out from this is Skull Ring. And it's mixed together with this bluesy vocals from Gordie Johnson, this really reggae rhythm, and the hard rock guitars just really clash, and it sounds weird on paper, but they really work together when you hear it. Next is Sloan, who are one of my favorite bands as well. Their 1998 album, Navy Blues. This was the first Sloan album I had ever heard. I got it for Christmas in grade 6. Fell in love with it, and yeah, it's still my favorite Sloan album. And definitely check it out. It's got some really great songs on there, like Suppose They Close the Door, Money City Maniacs, which is a huge hit, and my favorite is On the Horizon, which is written by Andrew Scott. So definitely check out Navy Blues from Sloan. Next we have the Black Crowes, who, just a great bluesy rock band again. Their second album, The Southern Harmony and Musical Companion. Definitely check this album out if you're a fan of that really... if you're a Rolling Stones fan, you'll love this album. It doesn't sound exactly like the Rolling Stones, and I know they hate that comparison, but if you like the Rolling Stones, you will like this, because it's very rootsy rock, and it's, you know... There's a lot of heavy songs on here, but it's bluesy at the same time. Check out stuff like Hotel Illness is a really great song. No Speak, No Slave. Yeah, it's just a really great album. And finally, my favorite album of all time is Damn the Torpedoes by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And, you know, this album, like I said before, it was not the first album, Tom Petty album that I'd heard, but it was the one that really made me a huge fan. This album was really innovative sonically. Yeah, you know, the drums, the way the drums were recorded, they tuned the snare drum really low, and it has that deep, really bassy sound to the snare drum, which is really interesting because you really didn't hear that very often up until that point. So to hear that is really innovative and really fresh and really new. That was really the first time that sound had ever been created. All the songs are great. I don't think there's a bad one on there, and that's not my biased opinion. I've heard that from people who aren't huge Tom Petty fans, but they like Tom Petty, but they're not like diehard fans like me. And I've heard them say that there isn't a bad song on this album. That really says something. And yeah, it's just my favorite album. Definitely check it out. Check out the special edition they released last year, because there's a couple bonus tracks. There's a second CD with like outtakes and a couple live tracks and things like that. So if you get the chance, pick that one up, and it's really great. So those are my favorite albums of all time. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I think it's a little long, but hopefully you stuck it out. And I didn't get a review up this week because I was having trouble getting the video uploaded. So I wanted to review the new Black Keys album. So I will have that for you guys on Monday. I'm going to reshoot it because there was a couple things I was kind of unsatisfied with, so it's kind of a blessing that I wasn't able to upload it. So I'm going to reshoot that on Monday. I will have it up for you, and yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys on Monday. Take care. Bye.